the distance between the Earth and the troposphere is, depending on the relation to the equator, somewhere between 10 and 15 kilometers or something, and it also depends on the time of the year. But I was really interested in the idea of this measurement as a way that the weather only exists beneath the troposphere, and above the troposphere, the weather is always the same. And so when you're in an airplane, you're flying above the weather is always, it's always sunny or it's always clear. There's two hand-woven ones. The one in the collection is one of them, which was made in Algeria. There was another one that was hand-woven that was made in Lubeck. And one of the things I was really interested in is the idea of somebody taking this material and touching that whole distance as they're weaving. And then in both cases, the weavers were asked to choose the color of night. And so it was their own connection to a time of day and then to the weather in their weaving this distance. Then there's a couple of versions that are knit by somebody in Poland, by a woman in Poland. And then there's other versions of the work which take items that are bought just from a bricolage that come measured in a length, and then the combined length of all of those things equals this distance between the Earth and above the weather. And part of what I'm interested in is the way that these works become distributed throughout the world, and so they mark this connection to basically to the absence of weather in different places. And so I would never have two works made in the same place, because I really like the idea that even the work that was woven in Algeria is now in Paris, and it marks this distance. And so it has to do also with the movement of around the planet in connection to this consistent distance. There was another work that I made where I've had photographic paper mailed to people in different places in the world, also as a way of connecting people in different places, where in this case they were asked on the equinox, which is the 2 days of the year in which the day and the night are the same length everywhere in the world, to expose photo paper to the sunrise, and then the paper is never developed. And it comes from these different places in the world all to one place together, and so they begin collecting the light at that moment in different places. So in a way, Above the Weather and this other work, Into Black, have a connection to each other like this. The people who make the work, I see them as being the pure viewers of the work, and that the experience that they have is the true experience with the work. And then I imagine it like a grid where you look at 0 and then negative numbers and positive numbers, and I sit at 0 asking the people in the negative numbers, which are the people who produce the work and have the real experience with the work and the real understanding with the work, and they've touched it and they've felt it and they know the size of it and all of those things, whether it's a chimney sweep attaching a bell to their brush and ringing it through the chimneys in Berlin or something like that, that their experience is that one. And then I organized it and enjoy the process of it being made, and enjoy meeting the people and talking to them, and find that a really exciting part of being an artist. And then the people who come afterwards, which is everybody else who gets to turn it into something for themselves. And so in a way, for me, the work is completely about the presence of what's taking place in the people who are making the works, or how I'm thinking about the works. And so that presence is incredibly important to me. And then, but the only way that work can then be delivered afterwards is with the absence of those people who were involved, because it's not performative in the sense that it's not a performance that's meant to be seen. I think that a lot of the time I'm more interested in people not changing the way they look at the world, but realizing that everything that we're a part of has a history. Like every book that somebody else has read before you read, you're having a common experience with. Every glass in a bar has had other people's lips and other conversations spoken over them, and I think that a lot of it isn't really appropriate for art making. And so I think that that's where the method of poetry is really important to me, because it has to do with a combination of words in relation to what that combination means. And so it's not a weaver weaving a blanket. It's the distance from the earth to above the weather woven. And so those are fundamental differences to me. I'm not observing a history that an object has. I'm creating the history that the object has. I think that the relationship between the language of my work, how I write the work, and what the object is something that I'm constantly questioning. I don't believe that you can put gems inside of an owl and have somebody look at it and then think, oh, there must be gems inside of that owl. And so I think that language is one of the ways that you can tell somebody that, because sculpture for me is something that has to do with not something that's created from the outside, but something that's created from the inside. And so why leave out all the possibilities of objects and forms that you can bring into sculpture? And I think of myself as a sculptor. If when my wife is sleeping and the baby and Kathleen are sleeping and the sun is a flame white disk in silken mists above shining trees, if I in my north room dance naked, grotesquely, before my mirror, waving my shirt around my head and singing softly to myself, I am lonely, lonely, I was born to be lonely, and I am best so. If I admire my arms, my face, my shoulders, flanks, buttocks against the yellow dawn shades, who shall say I am not the happy genius of my household? By making the title the complete poem, it was the idea of using the titling of an exhibition as a way of distributing this poem. And the poem for me is about creativity, which is something that's incredibly awkward and difficult to talk about. I mean, artists generally don't say, well, I'm a creative person. But of course they are. And the exhibition was about, it was, for me, a statement against reference. And I wanted to propose a group of artists who couldn't make the work that they made unless it was for something that moved them. But what they made was transformative and something that's new. And the idea that anybody who reads something and is moved by it or experiences something, whatever, that they own that experience, and that is a creative act. And so whether you're an artist or a designer or somebody who brings something into the world, makes less difference than the idea that the nature of being moved and transformed by something is a creative act. You're creating something by being changed by it.